Representative Paul Brown. He is the chairman of the Science Space Technology Subcommittee on Investigations. Now, Congressman Brown, you recently held a hearing.
That's correct.
Around Light Squared.
We did.
What was that hearing about, and what did you learn?
Well, Peter, we have been trying to get information from Light Squared because the information that we have been able to ascertain thus far is that this ground-based broadband network that Light Squared wants to put in place is being fast-tracked through the FCC, and this administration is pushing the FCC to approve Light Squared's spectrum, which is right adjacent to all the GPS spectrum. Everything that we hear from all the experts is that this spectrum, if it's ground-based, which it wasn't designed to be, is going to interfere with everybody's GPS in their cars. It's going to interfere also with the highly technical GPSs that the science community utilizes, that the aviation community uses, that particularly the military uses. So the high precision GPS very probably is going to be interfered with by Light Squared's going ahead with their ground-based system. Now, the spectrum was designed for a very low-intensity signal. It was designed to be a signal that was broadcast from satellites. But Light Squared is trying to push it through, and this administration seems to be doing also. We've written for a lot of documents. The administration has stalled on that. Peter, this is just another example of how this administration gives political favors to its major contributors. The FCC chairman is a good example, has bundled, the public record shows he's bundled over $500,000 to the administration. The CEO and the major stock owner of Light Squared have given maximum contributions to this campaign, to the Obama campaign. They have, in fact, they set up dates to see senior administration officials the same day they wrote these checks, which kind of smells to me. And the administration has not given us the transparency that we've asked for. This administration has asked or has told the American public it's going to be totally transparent, but it has been very obscure, and they have blocked every effort. And not only that, when we had the hearing on September the 8th, it was almost a cookie-cutter type of testimony from the different administration officials that came before us. The day after we had our hearing, General Sheldon was at the House Armed Services Committee and also testified on this issue, and he has publicly said that this administration has put pressure on him to change his testimony. This is deplorable. It's ridiculous, and I'm just very concerned. Light Squared is subject to make billions of dollars of profit if they can be given this spectrum, and the administration is doing everything that they can to fast track it through before it's been vetted, before we have any answers about interference with GPS. And every expert that we can get and have come before us have told us that GPS is definitely going to be affected by Light Squared's ground-based broadband spectrum. We've got to stop this.
So what did you learn from when you had the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration there? You had Department of Transportation at your hearing, NASA. Was the FCC present at your hearing?
No, and they were not. They refused to come. And we've requested through our committee, we've requested a lot of different documents, emails, etc. And they've just not been forthcoming at all about these documents. They've just stonewalled. They've done everything that they can to prevent us from getting the information that we need. We have the oversight. We have the responsibility of making sure that the American public, and particularly the U.S. government entities, such as our U.S. military, is not going to be harmed by this spectrum. But the Obama administration is just forcing it through without vetting it, without doing anything, and not giving us the information so that we can even know what's going on. And they're trying to do this on a fast track so that the investors or potential investors will go ahead and invest in this business that's going to give the major people who own Light Squared the kind of profits that are going to be tens of billions of dollars. And it's going to be at the expense of the military, and particularly the aviation community, as well as government entities such as NOAA and NIST and other entities that require this high precision GPS measurements. Light Squared is going to interfere with those from everything that we can ascertain at this time.
Okay.
We need to slow this process down. The FCC needs to stop trying to fast track this. And we need to do everything we can to make sure that we have a proper vetting of everything dealing with this spectrum before Barack Obama gives these, and this administration gives these political favors to his major contributors.
When we talked with Mr. Ahuja last week, he talked about the vetting process that you've mentioned. Here's what he had to say.
The process that is really relevant here is 2003 and 2005 process. 2010 was a very relative, the change of control was a very long, several months long process. Okay. I don't know how it could have been a longer and a more detailed or a more comprehensive process. This is as comprehensive a process I've seen anywhere, globally.
Congressman Brown.
He's absolutely wrong. They say that they can have filters, and they've made some arrangements with a company to give us filters that supposedly will prevent the interference. But we don't know. Those filters haven't even been developed. How can we know? We need to have that information. So he's just written big checks to the Obama campaign. The people all involved across the board with Light Squared, multiple of the major people with the company have written big checks to the Obama campaign, and they're trying to force it through the FCC. The FCC's already given some preliminary okays to go ahead, and we just don't know. It needs to be slowed down. We need to have a proper vetting. We need to find out what the situation is. This whole spectrum was not designed for a land-based broadband. There are other companies also. This administration is picking winners and losers, and the winners that they pick are the people who write big checks to the Obama campaign. And
So
it just
you
is
don't
not
see-
right.
you don't
This
see-
is just like Solyndra. This is another one of these cases where the Obama administration is trying to force the American people to accept something to give tremendous profits to the Obama's political supporters, and it's just not right.
So you're not seeing promise in the technology that Light Squared is proposing?
We don't know, and that's the thing about it. And there's a tremendous potential. Everything we can hear, there's a tremendous potential that Light Squared's ground-based broadband is going to interfere with high-precision GPS. If it can be prevented, fine. But the administration shouldn't be picking winners and losers. Certainly they should not be trying to force things through the FCC and through the regulatory bodies before we have a proper vetting, just like Solyndra. We're getting almost daily information about how there were many warning signs down the road through the Bush administration. In fact, the Bush administration refused to give them the loans. The Obama administration just forced it through. Why? Because they were big supporters of the president. And this is the same thing that's happening here. The FCC, who was a big supporter, big bundler for the administration, is taking care of his buddies, it looks like to me. And the military could be harmed. Commercial interests could be harmed. And Light Square is saying that all of us, I'm a pilot. I've got an aviation GPS. And Light Square is saying that I need to spend extra money. The airlines need to spend extra money. Anybody in aviation, as well as they've said that they would give $50 million to the government for filters, but the experts tell us that the filters are going to cost billions of dollars. $50 million is not going to scratch it. So we've just got to slow this process down. It has to be vetted. We need transparency from the administration. We need to have all the requests granted and give us the information that we need in our committee so that we can really look at this and understand what's going on before this administration, before the FCC okays Light Squared going ahead with with their ground-based broadband.
And finally, Congressman Brown, in a letter September 20th to John Holdren, the Director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy, you ask him for some documents.
Absolutely.
What do you ask him for? And this was
Well,
all the Republicans on the on your committee signed off on this letter, but no Democrats.
That's correct.
Okay.
We asked for a lot of documents, emails, scientific documents, anything that we could get from the administration, but they stonewalled. We can't get information from NOAA. We can't get any information from Department of Homeland Security. We can't get information from the administration. They're withholding it. We have the responsibility in making sure that taxpayers' dollars are spent wisely and that taxpayers are not going to be harmed and the business interests are not going to be harmed, that jobs are not going to be harmed by what this administration is doing. And they're stonewalling all the same time. They're just trying to force through the okay for Light Squared to be able to put in place their ground-based broadband system. It's not right. I'm just asking all the administration to produce what we need to be able to vet this, and the FCC needs to stop this process until we can get that information and we can go forward in a transparent way so that we can find out what the science is and what the ramifications of this system that Light Squared wants to put in
You
place.
put an October 7th deadline in your letter. If you don't get the information, what happens next?
Well, we're going to keep on trying. We'll use every tool that we have,
Including subpoenas?
Well, if we have to, absolutely. And we have that power. We have the power to subpoena people out of the administration. If we need to, absolutely, we'll do that. We've got to get this information, and it's very timely that we do it. So if we don't hear anything by October 7th, we're going to start knocking on their door again very strongly.